In the temporarily occupied Mariupol, the arrival of elite units of the FSB Special Forces and Marines from the annexed Crimea is recorded. This was reported by the head of the Center for Occupation Studies Petro Andriushchenko. According to him, this is the second deployment of such units to the city this autumn. The first time it happened in September. Back then, the Marines suffered losses in a firefight in the village of Urzuf at the Kvant expansion facility. The new batch of new arrivals is stationed in Ilyich iron and steel works. Andriushchenko noted that the military arrived for manning up and coordination, after which they will be deployed to the front line soon. Mariupol, a strategic Ukrainian port city on the Sea of Azov, fell to Russian forces in 2022 after a devastating siege. The city's strategic importance lies in its position as a key industrial center and its role in potentially creating a land bridge between Russia and annexed Crimea. The city's infrastructure was largely destroyed during the siege, with estimates suggesting that up to 90% of residential buildings were damaged or destroyed. Russian authorities have destroyed approximately 460 residential buildings while constructing only around 50 new structures. These new developments are not intended to restore housing for displaced Ukrainians, but instead created as attractive properties for Russian settlers, primarily marketed through mortgage mechanisms. Recall the battle for Mariupol raged for 3 months before the city's last defenders surrendered in May 2022. The port on the Sea of Azov was of strategic importance to the Russians, making its complete capture all the more important. The city's residents paid the highest price. According to Human Rights Watch estimates, at least 8,000 people were killed and over 90% of the city's residential buildings were damaged. After the conquest, Russia quickly presented a master plan for reconstruction and for the Russification of Mariupol. Satellite images document what has changed in the city over 3 years of Russian occupation. From the air, 2 flagship projects stand out, in particular in the new cityscape. Russia has built a naval academy in the southwestern part of the city. Before the invasion, there were sports fields here. Russian President Vladimir Putin opened it himself in the summer of 2024 by video link. According to Russian state media, 240 cadets were selected as part of the first cohort and began their training in September. A completely new neighborhood called Nevsky has been created on the western edge of the city. Before the invasion, there was a green meadow here. Satellite images show that new buildings had already been erected by the beginning of 2023 and that work was underway on others. By May 2025, more residential buildings had been added, with soccer fields and basketball courts in between. Russia says it has built a total of over 5,000 new apartments in 70 new buildings for the residents of Mariupol. By the end of 2024, the authorities claimed that almost all Mariupol's homes had been rebuilt. The progress made on these construction efforts can be seen in satellite images, but the traces of the city's destruction are still evident, especially in the eastern part of the city.
Ukrainian citizens on Friday shared their expectations on an upcoming meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelenski in Washington. "We showed the whole world that we can fight and we are ready to fight until the end. And we expect support from our friends, Americans, from the American people." Ivan Balatsky, a Ukrainian veteran, told the Associated Press. Some Ukrainians expressed doubt about the success of the upcoming negotiations. "There are no expectations from any of these meetings, because the previous meetings showed that they are not productive," said Army medic Marichka Fartushna. In relation to Trump and his activities, there is a big question, and unfortunately this is not a question of a positive nature, she added. Trump is set to host Zelensky for talks at the White House on Friday, with the US leader signaling he's not ready to agree to sell Kiev a long-range missile system that the Ukrainians say they desperately need. Zelensky gets his one-on-one with Trump a day after the US President and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a lengthy phone call to discuss the conflict. Trump also announced his second meeting this year with Putin. A date has not been set, but Trump said it would take place in Hungary's capital, Budapest, and it could happen in about 2 weeks. In recent days, Trump had shown openness to selling Ukraine long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles, even as Putin warned that such a move would further strain the US-Russian relationship. But following Thursday's call with Putin, Trump appeared to downplay the prospects of Ukraine getting the missiles, which have a range of about 995 miles. Zelensky had been seeking the weapons that would allow Ukrainian forces to strike deep into Russian territory and target key military sites, energy facilities, and critical infrastructure. Zelensky has argued such strikes would help compel Putin to take Trump's calls for direct negotiations to end the conflict more seriously.
Я очікую максимальної підтримки. Ми показали всьому світу, що ми можемо боротися і ми готові боротися до кінця. І ми чекаємо від наших друзів, американців, від американського народу підтримки. Ну, ми тільки сподіваємось, бо хлопці потомилися і чекають якихось рішень на передовій. Але насправді я думаю, що все ж таки все залежить від нас, від українців, від людей.
У мене немає жодних очікувань від жодної з таких зустрічей, тому що попередні зустрічі показали, що вони непродуктивні. Я пишаюсь нашим президентом, на його боці. Не факт, що з усім його діями всі погоджуються, але він наш президент. А от стосовно Трампа і його діяльності є великі питання, і, на жаль, це не позитивного питання характеру. Тому так. Я бачу, що у них є класна колаборація, що вони співпрацюють. Хто співпрацює з злом, той належить до нього. Це моя особиста думка. І не можна бути сірим, або білий, або чорний. Трамп чітко показує свою позицію. Він не за Україну, тобто він виходить, що